All right, so now we're going to do some more factoring. Almost this whole chapter is about factoring. So here we go. Let me start off. This is not officially an example, but it kind of is. It just kind of shows you how to do this. So it's factoring by grouping. Let's pretend this is a college class. Let's just pretend. So look, I'm talking about how people behave in the class when a teacher's up in front talking to them. All right, so here we go. What we're going to do is we're going to factor this. So normally, what would we do? Normally, we'd find a greatest common factor. What's in common with all four of these? Well, let's take a look. I got an AC here. I got an AD here. So far, there's an A in common, right? But what about this one, though? It says BC. So I don't have anything in common with all three of these, do I? So I'm kind of stuck. And then what about here? Yeah, I don't have one thing that's in common with all four of those, do I? Do I have an A in all of them? Nope, no A here, no A here. Do I have a C in all of them? Not here, not here. So here's what I'm going to do. That's exactly right. That's what we're going to look. I do. I have an A and an A right there in common. You don't have to write that little squiggly thing. I just do this just to help my brain, just to help me understand this, okay? What do I have in common with these two? I got a B. Now, you could have done this. You could have grouped the A, B, or the AD and the BD together, right? You got a D in common, all right? But we're just going to group it like this. So watch what I'm going to do. Everybody watch. They kind of rig these a little bit so it comes out a certain way. That's okay. Let's do it. So what I'm going to do is just take this one right here and just factor that one. Then I'm going to come over here and just factor this one. But then we're going to see, after I factor it, we're going to see something that I want you to look at. So watch. If all I did was factor out an A from this, what would I be left with? If I factor out an A from this, C plus what? D. All right, easy, right? Yeah, super easy. Plus, what am I going to factor out of this? What's in common with both of these? A B. Yeah, I put it right there. All right. So what are you going to be left with after I factor out the B? C plus D. Now, okay, now you're seeing it. Now, we're not done yet. Because, listen to me. When I say to factor something, our final answer needs to be something times something. Do I have that here? No. I've got this times this, and this times this, but then they're being added together. So this is not completely factored yet, is it? I've done a little tiny factoring here and here, but this whole thing is not factored, all right? And sometimes there's cases where it just won't factor, but in this case it does. Again, because they rigged this thing, all right? They made this thing work. So let's look. What do I have in common with this and this? I got a C plus D in common with both of them. So let's factor that out. C plus D. This is kind of like that example 9 that we did, right? Where you had that X minus Y plus Z or whatever it was. It's kind of like that. So if I take out a C plus D with this, what am I left with? Put a parentheses, A, and then put a plus. Take out a C plus D from this, what am I left with? A B. Now do I have something times something? Yeah. Absolutely. So now this is factored. If you wanted to, we're not going to because of time, but if you wanted to, you could do FOIL method on this or distribute. Let's do it. We got time. What's this? C times A. CA, or put it in alphabetical order, it's AC right there, isn't it? Let's do this. CB or BC. There's a BC right there. Let's do the inside. DA or AD. There's an AD right there. Let's do this one. DB or BD. There's your BD right there. So does it work? Okay. When I multiply it through, when I distribute it, does it work? Absolutely. All right. So that's your check. That's your checking. All right. By doing that in your head. But that's your answer. This is your answer right here. Let's do one more. And then we'll stop. So that is your answer right there. That's not officially an example, so let's do an example. Last example I did was 9. I'm actually skipping example 10. I don't think we're going to really use that. So I'm going to go right to 11. Here we go. Let's write this down. 3ax squared plus, should be writing this down. All right, here we go. All right, so what I want to do is I want to factor this. I didn't write that in there, but that's what they want you to do. Factor. Now, if you take a look, is there anything in common with every single term here? No. There's not. There's not an a in here and there is here. X squared here and here, but not any of the other ones, okay? There's a 3 here and here, but not over here. All right, yeah, so there's nothing in common with all, how many of them? 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to group them together, and we're going to group them so that there are things in common. All right, so they made this kind of easy. They kind of put them next to each other. So look at this right here. Let's do that grouping right there. Is there anything in common with those two? Yeah, a 3 and what else? An x squared. Good. Okay, A, I'm not going to work with that. You could like do this one and this one, but I think the best one to do would be this because there's a couple things in common with those. Do you see that? Yes? What's in common with both of these? 5 and an x, all right? So let's do that. Let's factor it out. So what was this one? 3x squared. I'm going to put a parentheses. I'm going to factor it out. I'm going to divide it out. So this divided by 3x squared. What am I left with then? If I take 3ax squared divided by 3x squared, what am I left with? An a. Thank you. To nobody that answered. All right, so look at this one. What am I left with here? A b. Thank you. Somebody did answer. All right, plus, now check this out. Let's think ahead a little bit. Everybody watching? Okay, good. Look, I got an a plus b, don't I? What else do I have floating around here? I got this a, what? Plus b, yeah? So let's just write that down. You got it? Then what do I have in common with these two right here? 5 and an x. Now let's factor the 5x out of both of these. What am I left with if I take a 5x out of that? Yeah, yeah, that's good. I'm glad you said that because I was about to write b plus a, and that would be fine. But everything else is a plus b, so we might as well make this one what? A plus b. Good. Did I cover everything on that? Yeah. Now let's take a look now. It's not completely factored. I did do 2 factorings, but it's not completely factored just yet. So I want to find out, is there anything else in common? Well, watch what I could do here. I could put that in parentheses. Does that help a little bit? What's in common with this term, and this term? There's an a plus b in all 3 of those, correct? So let's factor it out. A plus b. Put it in parentheses. Put another parentheses. What's left over then? If I take an a plus b out of that, I'm left with 3x squared. If I take an a plus b out of this, that's a little trickier. It's a 1. That's right. It's 1 times this. So if I take this and divide it by a plus b, I'm left with a 1. Plus, take an a plus b out of this, I've got a 5x. Technically, you could write your answer like this, but how do you think they write the answer? Yeah, they put the 5x first, okay? So everything's exactly the same, except they write it. I would accept this as an answer. If you wrote that as an answer, it'd be fine. But this is what you'll see. Put it in descending order. Remember that? We've talked about descending order. All right, so this is the way that they would write the answer. Is that now factored? Do I have one thing times another thing? Absolutely, okay? So now that is completely factored, and that's your answer right there, okay? So I'll do some more of that tomorrow. We'll continue with that. So we just started the grouping stuff today. I'll finish that up tomorrow. So no homework on the grouping. I'll give that to you tomorrow. But the stuff that we did earlier today, have homework. Your homework will be that. Where's everybody going? The bell didn't ring yet.